reality. But the second is a movie that starred Robin Williams, came out in early 90s, late 80s, called Dead Poets Society. And there's a scene in that movie where Robin Williams, he's an eccentric, very eccentric literature professor, and he has all his students, all these boys, standing in front of this massive trophy case with all the pictures of different classes and baseball and football and so forth teams that had gone before them. And a lot of these boys were old and gone. But he has them whispering, or he has them leaning up against the glass and really looking hard at the pictures. And then he whispers behind him, "Carpe diem." He says, "Carpe diem." It's Latin for seize the day. And he teaches a lot of lessons around carpe diem throughout the movie. And that sits with me, and I've thought about that many times. You know, it's a phrase that I look at. It isn't just a phrase that says seize the day, but it's a phrase that to me it says seize the opportunity. Seize the opportunity to act. I think if you surveyed 100 people and asked them, what is your purpose in life? You would get a lot of different answers. You may get, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a wife, I'm a teacher, I'm a policeman, I'm a grocer, and so forth. But really, what is their greater purpose in life? What is each one of our greater purposes in life? And Robin Williams, as he's talking through the movie, these are my old guy glasses, excuse me. As he's talking through the movie and talking about seize the day, you know, how do we seize our day and with our greater purpose? You know, nobody goes through life wanting to be mediocre. We all want to be a little bit extra. I think even the people who say, I'm satisfied with being mediocre, if you ask them and you were able to dig into their brain, you'd find that they want to be a little better. They want to stand out, at least among their peers and among their crowd. They want to make a difference. But, you know, just as Robin Williams was whispering carpe diem and, you know, seize the day to those boys were learning how to not be mediocre, but how to rise above. You know, unfortunately, many times we get caught up in our day-to-day lives and we don't have time to seize the day. We've got deadlines and commitments. We have problems and priorities and distractions and obstacles and all those things that get in our way that we aren't able to really get fulfillment for each one of the days. We're able to just check the block, get to sleep, and get up the next day and repeat. I think Paul, I think he believed in carpe diem. You know, in Philippians 3, he puts carpe diem within our grasp. Paul shows us 3 simple ways to live a more fulfilling life. And the first thing that Paul talks about is needs to find our purpose. We each need to find our purpose. Without purpose, there's no fulfillment. But in order to be successful, in order to feel successful, in order to truly be successful, we need to know what our greater purpose is. You know, and a good example of an organization and people knowing what their purpose is the IRS. Okay, April 15th is coming. Is the IRS. In the 1976 IRS Handbook, it says this: during a state of national emergency resulting from enemy attack, the essential functions of the IRS will be as follows: assessing, collecting, and recording taxes. So as the rest of the United States is freaking out and all Americans are panicking, the IRS, they know what their purpose is to take our money. Okay? Every creature, every object, every person God created has a primary purpose. And our lives without meaning, our lives are without meaning unless we find our purpose. Paul stated his reason for living. Okay, in verses 10 and 11, I want to know Christ and his power of his resurrection and the fellowship of sharing his sufferings, becoming like him in death, and so somehow to attain the resurrection from the dead. Paul is saying, I want to know Christ so that I may be like him. Simply put, Paul's reason for living was to be like Jesus. This should be our reason for living as well, our primary purpose. There's a second step Paul shows us in Philippians 3 in developing the ability to seize the day. Paul says we must forget the past. This one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead. I press on toward the goal for the prize of the heavenly call of God in Jesus Christ. We must Forgive and forget the bad. We learn from our experiences. We must eventually let them go. A lot of times we hold on to them and we open that closet all the time to look at that skeleton, remind ourselves, close it, go on throughout our day, and then we open that again and continuously never let it go. We pack it in our rucksack and we carry it with us everywhere we go. But we've got to learn from it and let it go. Paul had a past. He caused a lot of pain and damage to Christ's cause. Now, he was faced with a choice. He could either dwell on his mistakes and let it get in his way of ministry, or he could learn from it and move on. Maybe you've had a bad experience in your life. I've had experiences that I regret. But do you hold on to them? Do you regret? Do you hold on to that memory and let it continue to beat you down? Or do you learn from it and move on? I've told a lot of soldiers over the years, it's never too late to do great things. And coincidentally enough, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Move on. In Isaiah 43:25, he says, I am he who blots out our transgressions for my own sake, and I will not remember your sins. Later on in Isaiah, or just before in Isaiah 31:34, it says, I will forgive their iniquity and remember their sins no more. In forgetting the past, we must also forget the good and don't live in yesterday. One of my favorite singers, Bruce Springsteen, for a lot of you guys over here who haven't heard of Bruce Springsteen before, you can YouTube him later, okay? But he has a song called Glory Days. And in that song, a guy's talking about living back in high school, being fantastic at baseball, and that's his moment of fame. There's people, even among us, I've done it myself, of trying to hold on to that one moment where we knew we'd truly done good. And we live it and live it. And those boring stories come up over and over again about that one time we know we really done good. But potential has a shelf life. And although we really done good that one time, with potential having a shelf life, what are we doing to continually do better? What are we doing to seize the day? What are we doing to glorify God? And those are important things you have to ask yourself. Paul knew that a good past was not in itself enough to guarantee a meaningful life and a future. In verse 4, he says, if anyone has reason to be confident in flesh, I have more. He goes on to say, yet whatever gains I had, these I have come to regard as loss because of Christ. More than that, I regard everything of loss because of the surprising value of knowing Jesus Christ, my Lord. What Paul is saying is, I will not live in the past. My reason for living is to be like Jesus Christ. And whatever happened yesterday, good or bad, is now ancient history. And today, I live for Jesus. And I'm moving on. Next, Paul tells us to face the present. Forgetting what lies, in verse 13, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on forward the goal for prize of the heavenly call of God in Jesus Christ. It's easy to live in the past when we talked about Bruce Springsteen in that song, Glory Days. And it's easy to dream away the future. It's a real challenge to face the present because it means we can no longer allow ourselves the luxury of saying, one of these days, I'll fix my bad habits. One of these days, I'll be a better dad. One of these days, I'll try a little harder. One of these days, I'll find time. You know, in John 11, it talks about Lazarus dying. Okay, and Martha, Lazarus' sister, came to Jesus, and she said, if only. She said, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. Jesus told Martha, your brother will rise again. And Martha she started dreaming about the future. And she said, I know he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And whoever believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? Martha said, yes, Lord, I believe you are the Christ, the Son of God. Now, by Martha's confession, she was saying, not just yesterday, not just tomorrow, but today I believe you're the Christ. Facing the present doesn't mean that we put our faith in... Facing the present means that we put our faith in Jesus Christ today and trust him to be involved in our life today. And this enables us to fulfill our purpose in life. I read a funny little story, and I found it again, and I wanted to plug it in here because it represents the seizing the day, the opportunity, seizing the opportunity. It says, a young private and his commander got on a train together. The only available seats were across from a pretty young woman who was traveling with a grandmother. As they engaged in pleasant conversation, the young private and the young woman kept eyeing one another. The attraction was obviously mutual. Suddenly, the train went into a tunnel, and the car became pitch black. Immediately, two sounds were heard, the smack of a kiss and the whack of a slap across the face. The grandmother thought, I can't believe he kissed my granddaughter, but I'm glad she gave him what he deserved. The commander thought, I don't blame the boy for kissing the girl, but it's a shame she missed his face and hit me instead. The young girl thought, I'm glad he kissed me, but I wish my grandmother hadn't slapped him for doing it. As the train broke into the sunlight and the private could not wipe the smile from his face, he had seized the opportunity to kiss a pretty girl, slap his commander, and get away with both of them. Now that young private truly seized the day, truly seized that opportunity for one of his purposes in life, I guess. But God doesn't want us to waste our lives. He wants us to truly seize the day and live every day for our greater and primary purpose of serving him. He's given us a reason for our living, a reason for our existence. And although sometimes our existence and our living is awkward and we try to stumble through a day to day to get to where we need to be to serve our primary purpose, our primary purpose is to glorify God and try to be like Jesus Christ. Carpe diem. And today is the first day of the rest of our lives. So thank you very much. That's the message I have. If you would like prayers from the church, or if you'd like someone that's be able to speak with you tonight and have something heavy on your heart, feel free to come as we stand and sing.
When with the Savior we enter the glory land, won't it be wonderful there?